Well, conference realignment has finally arrived in Hawaii. If you think about it, over the years, Mountain West and the Big West Conference have largely remained unscathed as all the movement has occurred around us. But with the breakup of the Pac-12, it put into motion a series of moves that did impact us. I always felt at the end of the day that the two Pac-12 teams and the remaining Mountain West teams would merge into one conference, but as you know, with the 4 Mountain West schools that departed quickly and then the 5th school that departed, we needed to look at our options. So at the end of the day, as we looked at all these options, we believe that full membership in the Mountain West Conference is the best place for all of our sports to be. The president and I, along with all the community leaders, have discussed the matter, and all believe that this is the right move for the University of Hawaii's athletic program. I think it brings 2 things to us, and that's one, it brings stability for our program as a full-fledged member of an FBS conference, and 2, I think it will strengthen our financial picture. So, effective July 1st, 2026, we will join the Mountain West in all of our sports that they offer. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention in conclusion that we've really enjoyed our relationship with the Big West Conference and Dan Butterly. They have treated us very well over the years, and we will look forward to continue being working with them closely for the next 2 years and hopefully into the future, as hopefully some of our other sports can remain in that conference. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Could you address what will happen with the other sports that the Mountain West doesn't offer?
Yeah, good question. So there's 4 sports that they don't offer, and of course that's men's volleyball, women's water polo, beach volleyball, and men's swimming and diving. So they all have nice homes in the Big West Conference right now, but the Big West, and we would like to stay in the Big West Conference for those other 4 sports if we can, but that's up to the vote of the presidents and chancellors of the Big West Conference. And so that will be determined at a later date, but we're hoping that will continue to occur and that we can be affiliate members in those 4 sports and pay a fee and continue to have little disruption in those 4 sports.
May I follow up, please? What happens if they don't for some reason?
Well, that's a good question too. I think the MPSF is our second option. I know a lot of them have been in the MPSF before, so that will be our next move, is to try to see if we can park them there. But yeah, those are 4 very important sports of ours. So we want to definitely find a home with them. So first we'll try to see if the Big West will keep them, and if not, we'll adjust from there. All right, that was easy.
Go ahead, Josh. You signed the grant of media rights, that agreement starting in 2026. What happens media landscape-wise starting then?
Well, that remains to be unseen, remains to be seen, I guess. Our Spectrum contract goes through the end of this year, 2025, summer of 2025. And the Mountain West Conference media deal goes through the summer of 2026. So we have kind of that gap year of what we need to do. But the idea is to try to link that up with the Mountain West deal as a full member and so be part of that deal going forward. I don't know what that will look like, but that's kind of the idea at this point. And then generally as they do it, as I've been told, that they'll take the footballs and maybe some of the basketballs and things, but everything else will drop through back to the institution to decide how you want to distribute that locally. So that remains to be seen. But I think, if you look at our numbers, our viewing numbers and whatnot, I think we can be a real positive impact. I know that late night window is very important. I know that gambling window is very important for us. So I'm hoping that will all, gel together, and that it'll help with the media package for the Mountain West.
Can you talk about the timeline as far as when you guys signed the agreement to your commitment for the football team to be a part of the Mountain West, to when these discussions started to get to this point to become a full-fledged member?
Well, right after the 4 teams left, and then of course Utah State left as the 5th team, we were trying to sign a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, who was going to stay in the conference. And so we signed that probably 2 weeks ago. And then that was always a build-up to the grant of rights to really solidify everybody in the conference. And that was signed, I think, by the president yesterday. And once we got over the hump there and signed it, then we decided to announce that we were all in. So it's about probably a 2-week window of that. But as he mentioned, that grant of rights deal will go through summer of June 30th of 2032, which coincides with the CFP agreement too. So we'll see if that slows down. The CFP agreement will slow everything down between now and 2032, but that remains to be seen, of course.
Craig, the elimination of the travel subsidy payment, do you consider that, it's obviously a positive for you guys, is it more of a win on the financial side, or just the principle of maybe being on more of an even standing with your peers in the conference, whereas nobody else had to do that?
Yeah, I would say both, actually. I mean, certainly it's going to help financially for us, but I don't think anyone here, who especially been around a lot longer than I have felt good about the fact that we were kind of taxed taxed along the way to pay for our competitors come out. Nobody else has to do that in the conference, but I know why it had to happen back in the day to try to make sure that we ensured a place to play football, so I totally understand that. But I think you guys would even know more. I think that just didn't go over very well with people. So I think to your question, I think it helps both. It helps with the perception, helps and certainly helps with our financial picture too. So we're glad that we're able to eventually get out of those subsidies on both conferences.
As a follow-up, when you guys were talking to the Mountain West, was that kind of like a line in the sand or a firm thing that you guys were holding to in your negotiations and to get a concession from them in order to become a full member?
Yeah, that was a key component. I'll especially credit our president with that too, because I know he was very intent on that also. So I really have to credit President Lasner with really ratcheting it down on that to make sure. But that was a key component in making sure that we all felt good moving forward.
Craig, I think there was some communication I think you mentioned about having with the Pac-12. How serious were those talks? How serious did they get?
I know a lot of people thought that that might be a good move for us. I know the Pac-12 has that name brand out there. Of course, it's a different configuration than it was even a year ago when those other schools were still in place. But we wanted to look at all aspects of it, and so we did have discussions with their folks. I won't go into detail, but they were pretty substantial discussions. And I think one thing they really liked, if I had to summarize it, they really liked our late night window, because they're trying to evaluate what their media deal is going to be too, and going forward. And I think they really liked our late night window to add to their portfolio. But I think at the end of the day, between the exit fee and the poaching fees that would have to be paid, they just didn't feel the cost benefit was worth doing so. But I do think we felt really good the fact that we went all in on that, because we had to look at all the different options. I mean, some people were saying maybe you need to go independent, but that wouldn't be an option to try to create a schedule out here in Hawaii. The next, was Pac-12 and the Mountain West, what would be best in those particular situations. But we felt at the end of the day that the Mountain West was our best move.
I think the Mountain West protected your local television money. What's going to happen with the new contract? Does that all get thrown into the same pot with the Mountain West, or
I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
are they going to guarantee you a certain amount of games for your local TV, or are you going to turn over all your local TV rights to?
Yeah, that remains to be seen. I know both have been talked about, but I think we were always shooting to try to, even before this happened, try to merge with the Mountain West television package in 2026. That was always part of our plan. We had talked with them about this even last year. They would ask us, "Is that a possibility?" And we said, "Well, yeah. I mean, our Spectrum deal is done at the end of 2025. We'll have a gap year. Not sure what we'll do with the gap year. We're trying to see if maybe we can an extension or whatnot. But that was always the idea, is to try to merge it with the Mountain West package anyway. So yeah, what happens now? I'm sure they'll go out a little earlier now, because once they solidify their membership, what's going to look like, then they'll know what they can go out and sell. So I think they'll probably the Mountain West will try to go out and shop that sooner. But yeah, we'll be part of that bigger package in the Mountain West. Yeah.
Can you get a local deal if you're turning over all your football rights to Mountain West?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that they'll probably have all of our rights, but as they currently do with other schools in the Mountain West, but then the ones that they decide not to exercise will fall back to our own institution that we can put out there with some of our other sports. But football, yeah, I don't know how that will work. If it will be like it is now, I just don't have the answer to that. Yeah, that's a good question. We certainly want to consult with all of our constituencies, and they're the ones that are going to actually go out and have to play in a new league. So I did send out an email a couple weeks ago. I wanted to get their input to the head coaches. Also had a head coaches meeting with them to try to get their input. They all responded in writing to the email, and then also we've had a lot of side conversations. And certainly, I think I would have to summarize by saying most, if not all of our coaches are certainly supportive of it. They know that it's probably best for the overall health of our program. But certainly, some of them are concerned about the additional travel requirements that they'll have to do. I mean, I think they all felt good just taking a 5-hour flight to California and then just figuring out where to go in California. But now they'll have to, go to Laramie or, Colorado Springs, El Paso, some of those other places that are a little out of the way for them. So, and that will be a little harder because that'll be probably 2 flights, probably not a lot of direct. Although I'm happy to have Alaska on board because I was talking to the CEO of Hawaiian the other day at the football game, and we brought that up a little bit, and he said, well, with addition of all those Alaskan routes, maybe that will help us out as far as, a better flight situation. But yeah, I would say they're all supportive, but, some, especially the outdoor sports, would still prefer to play their games in California rather than playing them in the cold area. But on the other hand, they might, it might be an advantage because we are able to play outdoors all the time, and those other schools are not able to play outdoors all the time. So it remains to be seen what the net effect will be. But they're all very supportive of it, but certainly hesitant about the additional travel restrictions as probably the biggest concern they had.
Anything else? Dave?
Did the Hawaii exemption, week 0 potential game, is that figuring in negotiations of plus for Hawaii?
No, that was really never talked about. Yeah, that's a big advantage we have, but that was not really talked about in these negotiations.
I know there are reports that are surfacing that the Mountain West is still looking at 2 other football-only members. I think Northern Illinois is one of them. Any comment on kind of how you or UH feels about the potential of 2 members in a farther time zone?
Well, yeah, I haven't been involved in those discussions. I read about that myself today, so I was not aware of that. But I will say that whether it be us or that new Pac-12 conference being put into place, 8 schools makes it difficult for football scheduling because you need 8 regular season games. Some conferences, as you know, have 9, but we need at least 8. So if you only have 8 members, that means you play everybody one time. That's only 7 games. So do you play them one time and then play another school twice? So ideally it's better to at least have 9 schools because you have one school that can play the other 8 opponents. So that's probably first and foremost what we probably want to see is to have 9 football playing schools in there so we can have a full 8-game schedule. But yeah, I mean, as one, I've traveled with football now last year and this year. My thing is how do we, get better at traveling? That's why we're chartering this year and whatnot. But how do we stay in the Pacific time zone too? Instead of going out in the Mountain time zone and then the Central time zone. When we went to Sam Houston State to Houston, that's just a long flight. So if we can play all of our games closer to Hawaii, that's going to help us immensely. So yeah, hearing schools farther away makes our job a lot more difficult to travel. It costs a lot more and it takes a lot more time. You have to leave earlier, you miss school, that kind of stuff. You get home later. So, but again, we all have our preferences. We have our advantages and disadvantages. That'd be a disadvantage for us, but being a conference member, you're a team player. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. Can you just get a football only member? Are people going to come as full membership? And then also when you're trying to leave as a football only member, what do you do with your other sports? Does the conference that you're currently in allow you to keep your other sports there? Because you got to put them somewhere. The thing with all this discussion out the American Conference, when I was out there, Army and Navy are football-only members in the American. Many people don't know that. They park their other sports in separate leagues. So that's always the part that's not really talked about. Like even with us being a football-only member in the Mountain West, we were only able to do that because we had a place to put our other sports. So when I hear all that stuff, it's like there's just a lot more to it. Would they ever break off just as a football-only member? If they did, where are they putting their other sports? So long answer to that one, but I would like to get as many close to Hawaii as we possibly can for our own selfish benefit, but we probably need to get another football playing member so we can have an 8-team schedule.
Craig, the money you guys expect to save on travel subsidies, not paying them in the future, how do you envision that money being spent within your department? Recruiting, or will that go to the travel budget to these farther locations?
Yeah, it probably all goes into one pot. I mean, if you think about it, with the house settlement coming up, you know, our bill's about $400,000 a year to pay out for that house settlement, and then all the scholarship limits are off now, so there can be more scholarship limits, there can be revenue share. So even before this deal with the Mountain West, we are always facing, you know, we're going to be faced with spending a lot more money that we don't necessarily have. So, you know, by this move, we're improving our financial situation, which will go to the overall general fund. But again, we need to build up our general fund so we can pay for additional travel and you know, all sorts of things like that. The dues, for example, are higher in the Mountain West than the Big West. You know, so there's all sorts of expenses associated. The revenues will exceed the expenses for sure because it's a good financial move, but it's never enough. You know, we're going to have to find a way to keep up as it relates to increased scholarships. You know, what are we going to do with that? Are we going to, with no scholarship limits, we can give full scholarships all the way up to a much higher level in all of our sports. We can do revenue share with our student athletes too. So where we end up on all that, you know, remains to be seen. But money is really essential now, probably more so than ever before. So.
Anybody else?
One last one.
Go ahead.
Facilities, I guess, you know, because you're dealing with people that they're familiar with the football situation, but on your facilities for basketball and volleyball and other indoor are excellent. So was that a kind of a good selling point for you?
Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about that, but I think they know that. Because you're right, if you go to some of these old-time established programs, Wyoming, you know, UTEP, New Mexico, they have really nice arenas, but not any nicer than ours. And baseball, ours is going to be by far, I would imagine, probably the best baseball stadium in the league. You know, our attendance is probably better than most of all of them in those sports with our volleyballs and baseballs and things like that. So I think we'll match up really well there, and our facilities will be better, I'm sure, than most, or as good or better than most of them in there. So we feel really good about that. But yeah, it all comes back to, you know, football drives college athletics. You know, 85% of the money coming into conference is generally associated with football. And so all those other sports are very, very important, and basketball certainly brings the NCAA revenue share. But football drives it. So we've got to be really good at football here. We've got to get good facilities in football. We have to play well on the field. You know, our fans need to get behind us. And I think we can do that. We're a little bit of a low right now with our facilities and, you know, building a program. But we'll get there. And I think if we can get that stadium built and increase the level of our football performance, you know, we're going to be right up there and should have the ability to be as good as anybody in the league, if you think about it, going forward. So I'm happy about that. I think we got a bright future in that regard.
I'm excited. I think when Craig first mentioned going to the Mountain West, the first thing that crossed most of our minds, as he discussed earlier, was the travel component. I think the travel got a lot more challenging, but we're used to doing hard things here. And the team's excited. I'm excited. My staff is excited. I think the Mountain West for women's soccer is an excellent conference. They have 3 teams right now in the top 75 for RPI. So it will be not an easy task, but certainly the competition is great, and we're really excited about it.
Questions? Okay, fine.
Yeah, Coach, can you give us a feeling of your general reaction as this started kind of playing out in the news cycle and people's awareness, and what was your just kind of initial thought when you learned you guys would be leaving this conference home for a dozen plus years?
Yeah, the Big West has been home for us for a very long time, and it's been a very good soccer conference. So when all the conference realignment started happening, there was some talk already because we were already a member in football. So a lot of our colleagues asked, hey, are you guys going to just join altogether. And I said, that's way above my pay grade. Like I don't have any comment on that. And then it was really great that Craig reached out to all of us. He got solicited input from all of the head coaches and responded to every single one of us. So he understood our concerns. We trust him to do what's best for all of us. And it was really, it was like the worst kept secret, I think, because as of yesterday and the day before, and even early last week, people started asking me what was going on. And I said, well, this is going to play out as it's going to play out, and we're just going to roll with it like we always do. But at first, I'll be very honest, I was worried about our recruiting. But this morning, I got a bunch of text messages from the Big West coaches, and they are very excited to come to our tournaments in preseason. So I think scheduling just got a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, just for, you mentioned the schedule, Big West schools are excited to come for preseason. So just for the future of the program, being in Mountain West, how excited are you to, get that opportunity to play kind of a new set?
It's very exciting. We made some very good friends in the Big West, and the competition's been great. But now kind of branching out and expanding recruiting opportunities. I got a few texts this morning from recruits already, like now adding a little bit of additional interest because we're kind of right in their backyard. So I got about 6 of them this morning, 6 text messages from recruits. So that was really nice. And then also a couple 2025s who have already committed to us are also really excited. So I think when we look at the big picture for everything, it provides a lot of stability for us to have, that predictability of where we're going to be and what we're going to do. And like I said, we're used to doing hard things at University of Hawaii. So we're excited to join the Mountain West. And anybody who knows me knows that I was absolutely tickled about having to go to UNLV. Let's go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, sorry.
Before you leave, any questions for Coach on upcoming weekend's matches? Just get it done here.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a good call. Yes.
Not for this weekend, but you got to play Utah State and Air Force in the preseason. I know there's a lot of moving pieces at conference realignment, but did you ever feel like, hey, we can hang with these guys?
Absolutely, and I think if we had a chance to play them now, I think we'd probably look a lot different. We've done a lot of just individual and team growth since the beginning of the season, and everyone is still. I mean, we've had some challenges in the last 2 weeks with the 2 mainland flights back to back, so the legs are getting a little tired. I will admit that, but we had a very spirited practice this morning. We were right back at it. They went to class all day yesterday, so we're just kind of rolling with it. And we made the announcement to the team as well because they had seen stuff on social media. So I think with Air Force still being in the conference, and I think Utah State maybe leaving the conference, it's those coaches are friends of mine, so we would play each other anyway at some point. But we'll just get back there a little sooner than anticipated.
Obviously, this is an exciting day, and I'm excited about the news today and what's to come because I think there's a lot more exciting things to come. I think I want to preface all this. I think the most important thing is, we've been very blessed and fortunate and honored to be part of a great Big West Conference with great leadership, great membership, and obviously very much looking forward to continuing that honor in the next couple of years. And at the same time, we're excited about transitioning into the Mountain West Conference. Both comments can be true. And we're looking forward to the challenge, and we're obviously going to be focused on the task at hand and working to get ahead for when that transition happens. So I know having been here in 2 different stints and now, going into year 15 over 2 different stints, I've been around some of these exciting days and these moments, and this is obviously a special moment. So I look forward to opening up for questions, and you can interrogate me as much as you want.
Coach, having been around on staff in the UH-WAC era,
Yep.
and going some of these exact same schools, how do you, envision the travel process as you go to UTEP or Colorado Springs or any of these areas?
Yeah, that's a positive, and because I can look back on some of that and understanding, the uniqueness of this job and the awesome bonuses of this job, and obviously some of the challenges of travel. So we've dealt with some of that travel before, obviously, and I think it's exciting too. There's a lot of rivalries here. So we understand how to travel in the Mountain West, and we've, obviously I've been, when I was my first stint, we were in the WAC, and there's a lot of schools even prior, because the WAC's changed significantly. There's not one team. This is the nature of college athletics. When I was in the WAC, I'm not that old, but when we were in the WAC, there's not one current team currently in the WAC. So I do study the history of the program, and you see what the WAC used to be, and then the morph into the Mountain West. And so the rivalries, obviously we have football already playing in the Mountain West, but the travel we'll be prepared for. And obviously I've been through some of that, and I think there's a science to, and part of you shoot. There's a lot of people in the country right now that are asking me about how to handle the travel that we deal with all the time. The only thing I joke with them as is like, we have to do it. Why are you doing it? You got schools in the West Coast or traveling to the East Coast and things like that. But I think the travel we're looking forward to, we know how to do it. We're excited about it. And again, very excited about the rivalries that will be rekindled.
It seems like with scheduling's been a challenge in recent years because of the changing landscape. What's the challenge going to be like having to add 6 or 8 more non-conference games?
Well, I think we got to look first at what, because at the time, we're 2 years away from moving into the conference, and I know, what will be the amount of membership in the conference at that time. College scheduling has changed significantly over the years, just like every aspect of college athletics. And so the big thing is, are you reactionary or do you get ahead? So we'll get ahead. We'll put our work in. We'll continue to try to make sure we have a great Rainbow Classic field, the adjustments with the Diamond Head Classic, try to have great non-conference opportunities, look at our MTEs. And so we've been prepared for the challenge of playing a lot of games or less games. Shoot, the Big West not too long ago was a 16-game slate. So we've scheduled a lot of games before, and if we have to schedule more, we're ready for that. If it's less, we're ready for that. We've done both.
Back in the old days in the WAC, there was always a lot of talk about altitude. And it looks like it will come into play in some of these Mountain West schools. Has how you prepare for those kind of games changed at all since then?
Well, I always say, like, I know what I know and I know what I don't. And if I don't, I'll study it and find out the best at it. So I know we've played in some of these altitude games before, whether it was when we were in the old WAC or some of our non-conference games over the last several years. And there's a lot of science to it. Just like guys are calling me in the country about how we handle the travel, I'll be calling them about how to handle some of that altitude. And not going to outsmart ourselves. We'll be prepared for that, and we'll go from there.
Coach, Mountain West has been in its current form like a 5-6 bid NCAA league at times. With the degree of difficulty of conference, how do you see these next 2 years just preparing, ramping up for what would still project as a pretty good, even with 5 of those teams going away?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of changes in conference membership, but you're talking about some of the blue bloods or national programs respected still in that league, and guys who are investing in that league that are coming up. So, 5-6 bids the last couple of years, and I think that's really exciting. I've said that I think the Big West has been a vastly underrated conference, and really good coaches and continuity and players that develop, and the challenges have been as a whole are struggles with scheduling, which impact net rankings, things like that. It's not the reality of the quality of some of the teams. And here you have a bit of both. You can schedule well, which improves your net ratings, which improves it for the conference. And so that's really exciting to have potentially another opportunity to make the NCAA tournament. And I expect us to, like I said, over the next couple of years, get ahead of that. You'll see, I mean, you've already seen it over the last several years to try to upgrade our resources. And obviously we're doing our homework and talking to and studying the Mountain West and how they invest in their programs to put themselves in a position of success, and whether it's scheduling, recruiting budgets, staff sizes, all those things. As you know, since I've started coaching, the nature of college athletics has changed so significantly over the years. There's always been very subtle changes, but the last 3 to 5, it's been significant. And we got to make sure we keep up with that. And the NCAA's passed rules a lot of times, as you guys have heard, to separate the haves and the have-nots, and we're going to make sure we're not a have-not. So that's going to take all of us, the community, our staff, working in our administration, and we're excited about how that's going right now.
Has the Big West poll come out yet? Do you know, Derek?
Yeah, it came out first 7.
Just your thought on the poll placement, where you guys are projected this year?
Yeah, we talked to a lot of people in the country about it's always been, over the years I've never been too high or low on preseason rankings, and it's really hard to predict every year, especially this year for everybody in the country because the new faces and nobody's more of a blueprint right now for new faces than us. Losing your top 6 scores puts you in a position where on paper you can be ranked where you're ranked on the preseason. So more than anything, I'm excited because the rankings come out, mean the season's closer. This Friday will be 3 weeks from this Friday, our opener, official opener. And, I like we said, we got our top 6 scores gone. But you predict teams, you should predict them based on what you have coming back and what you have coming in, but also the development of those. And so I feel like our returners have made a jump. I feel like our newcomers are impactful. We've had great success with our transfers over the years, almost a blueprint and a good blueprint to have right now in a transfer age. And, you talk about Gitas over from Xavier, was an impactful player on a really good team for a really good coach. We expect him to make an impact. Tanner Christensen's been a 12-7 guy who's gotten better for a Utah Tech program. Marcus Green's obviously been a 15, 16 point a game guy, and he's learning a new system, and he's ready to make another move. Obviously, Jerome Palm from Valpo. So I feel like, we don't usually have, I know a lot of teams in the country have a lot of overhauls. We don't, and we don't have a lot of people going to the portal. We didn't. It just so happened we had a pretty significant senior class. But with that all being said, we're pretty excited about where we're at, where we're headed, and the challenge of it. And I think this is going to be one of those teams, too, that's going to get better as the season goes along. I also think it's a great respect to the league. There's really good teams in our league, really good coaches, and some teams have continuity, and a lot of teams are kind of in our boat as well. But you've seen the how competitive it's been home and on the road, and I expect it to be another competitive conference.
Hawaii football has that rivalry with UNLV. You get to see them every year now. In fact, they posted a tweet saying, "Y'all trying to play for a Golden Stan Musubi trophy."
That would be great. I'd like to see the design.
How do you feel about getting that rekindled in basketball?
Oh, that's great. I mean, actually, one of my first games, I think, when I came in my 4th year of coaching as a young assistant was at UNLV, and I think we had a home and home with UNLV that year, same year, and so there's a lot of history there for a lot of obvious reasons, not just on the athletic fields and courts, but also obviously the synergy between communities and obviously we've played conference tournaments there. I feel like everything's kind of come to Vegas, whether it's conference tournaments, USA basketball, NBA Arena coming on the way. Here comes the Final Four site, in a couple of years. So it's exciting to get other opportunities to play there as well. And they've done a really good job, and we're looking forward to that challenge.